Welcome back to Wednesday is Missing by P.G. Lark. This is episode 3 containing chapters 7 to 10.
Chapter 7. Butcher's Tuesday. Megan had decided to stop treating the missing Wednesday as a feeling. Scientifically, feelings were unreliable. They arrived late, changed their story, and made everything seem more important than it was. Since the morning chemistry lesson and meeting Philip, a feeling had told her that something was wrong. It was a starting point, but not data. So she did what she always did with an anomaly she couldn't yet name. She went back to her notebook and the column she had started that morning. Who remembers Wednesday? Abernathy, blind marking of chemistry homework, and Grimshaw, sleep-inducing maths lessons, were already on the same page. That made Wednesday feel less dramatic. Just a result she hadn't found yet. Then, because a column with one entry was just a sad list, she left Philip in the cafeteria and went to find Jed. She had more questions and more data to gather. The kitchens at Strings were the one part of the building that had refused to be renovated. Everywhere else was smooth, pale walls and the same firm opinions about lighting. Not here. The kitchens were tiled and steamed and smelled of stock, and the calendar on the wall was the kind suppliers gave away free, with a photograph of a cow on it, and the months printed too small. Jed was doing something violent to a tray of bones. "Now then," he said, glancing up. "You." Jed addressed almost everyone as you. It wasn't rudeness. He ran a kitchen for 40 teenagers plus staff, and had apparently decided, early, that student names were extra admin. He didn't stop working while he spoke. Jed never stopped working. His hands carried on without him, like some people's mouths did. "I have a question," Megan said. "It's for a project. Memory science." "Course it is." He swept a drift of trimmings off the board with the flat of the knife and wiped his hands on his apron. "Go on then. Mind the floor. It's wet by the sink." "When does your meat get delivered?" Jed paused. Cleaver poised in mid-air. It evidently wasn't the question he'd been expecting. People came into Jed's kitchen to ask for things, usually food, or to complain about things, usually food, or, in Deborah Castle's case, to ask whether the soup contained any traces of nuts. From his expression, nobody appeared to have asked about delivery schedules before. "Butcher's Tuesday," he said. "Fishmonger's Thursday, why?" "And the greengrocer?" she asked. Jed's face closed like a fridge door. "We don't discuss the greengrocer," he said. Megan waited. 11 years, Jed said to the bones. 11 years I've asked that man for Swedes, and 11 years he's sent turnips, and 11 years he's looked me in the eye and called them Swedes. I've stopped ordering them. I order turnips now, on principle, to see what he does. He brought the cleaver down. He sends Swedes. "That seems like it solves the problem," Megan said. "It doesn't solve the problem," Jed said, with great feeling. And that, she understood, was the end of the subject. "And this week?" "Same as every week." "Tuesday?" "Butcher's Tuesday," Jed said, with the patience of someone explaining Tuesday. "Always has been." Megan waited him out. It was Mr. Hong's own tactic, and he was better at it than anyone alive. Then she said, "Can I see the log?" She knew there was a log because in her second week Jed had made her sign for a vegetable delivery, while he took 3 trays out of the oven. Swedes and turnips hadn't been mentioned. For a moment Jed looked ready to ask why again, and Megan braced for it. In her first week she had worked out something about Jed and filed it away gratefully. He was a terrible liar. In a building full of better liars, this was useful. When Jed didn't want to tell you something, he didn't do what Mr. Hong did and tell you a true thing instead. No, Jed went pink and busy and said, "I can't say that," and you could watch him work out whether he meant can't or won't. He was a little pink and a little busy now, not much, but enough for her to clock, and clocking things was the whole investigation. The delivery log lived on a clipboard by the cold store, a greasy grid of dates and signatures, and the occasional all-caps grievance about packaging. Jed handed it over without much interest. He seemed to have decided the memory science project was harmless, which it was, and boring, which it wasn't. Before she read it, she had already decided what she would find. She had a theory by then. If there was a conspiracy going on, she expected Jed to have been briefed. She had even written it down in her notebook in the margin, where she put things she was fairly sure of. Jed briefed. Was he handed a story too? She had underlined it. It was a tidy idea. It explained the pink and busy, the wiped board, the not quite looking her in the eye. The log disagreed with her. She ran her finger down the column, looking for the cover story, the inserted line, the careful lie a briefed man would have been given to read out. There wasn't one. The butcher had signed on Tuesday. The fishmonger had signed on Thursday. Nobody had written anything false in between. A briefed Jed would have had a story to show her. A neat one. Prepared. This Jed had handed her a clipboard and gone back to his bones. As a scientist, she crossed out her own margin note the same way she crossed out anyone's work. In practice, she pressed the pen a little harder. Jed briefed? Was he handed a story too? She drew one line through it and wrote beside it, smaller. No, not briefed. This had been ordinary Jed, a man who disliked being asked questions in his own kitchen, and she had dressed it up as a clue because she had wanted one, which left her where she'd started, holding a log with nothing wrong in it. That was the trouble. There was nothing wrong at all. The days sat in their grid, neat and official looking, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. For one full second it looked like a week. Then she saw it. It did not say Wednesday. There was no crossed out line, no smudge, no gap where a day had been squeezed out. The log simply moved from Tuesday to Thursday, as if Wednesday had never been part of the arrangement. It was so tidy that her eye had tried to accept it. And because she was looking properly now, she saw the second thing, in the cold store behind Jed. A full, unopened sack of Swedes. A month ago it would have meant nothing. Now she knew how Jed worked. He used what he ordered, and a full sack meant a delivery he hadn't started, which meant this week. And they were Swedes. Real ones. The man sent turnips, 11 years of turnips, and somewhere in the part of the week she couldn't see he had sent Swedes instead. A whole sack of them, with no line in the log to say when it arrived. Chapter 8. The Missing Day. Jed, she said. When did the Swedes come? Jed followed her look to the cold store. He went to the sack, picked one up, turned it over to check it was really there, and put it back. That's a full bag, he said slowly. I'd have started a bag that size by now. He had 11 years of Strings larder against her one morning of it, and it took him no time at all. So it came this week, and it's Swedes. He said it as though reporting something that should not be possible. He sends turnips. I'd remember Swedes. I'd have had words. There'd be words in the book. He looked at the log, then at the sack, then at nothing. Then she watched him decide not to think about it. She had no name for the reflex yet, only that she'd just seen it happen. A man meeting something that didn't fit and quietly choosing not to question it. Jed picked up a cloth and reached for a board that was already clean. Jed, she said, what did you cook yesterday? He opened his mouth, then he closed it. He was a man who had, by his own cheerful admission, cooked roughly the same 9 meals in rotation for 11 years. He could have told her what was on for any day of the week, like other people recited their own phone number. She watched him try to find Wednesday, the day after Tuesday and the butcher's delivery, and she watched him fail, just as she hadn't been able to find double maths, or the new boy Philip who'd noticed her, and she watched the exact moment he decided this was normal, the same small surrender she'd watched a moment ago over the Swedes. For 1 second, Jed's hands, which never stopped. That was the tell. Chicken casserole on Wednesday, he said, the accent broadening as it did when he was put out. Strange I can't remember it, though. Cooked it that many times it weren't memorable. He crossed to the fridge and peered inside, looking for leftovers that might prompt his recall. All this for your project? Yes, Megan said. It's exactly for my project. She wrote his name in the Wednesday column. Beside it she wrote, No. And the mice? Megan asked. Jed looked at her. The humane traps, she said. Mr. Hong said you set them, in the library. Jed's face did something very small and very useful. It went blank before it went polite. Did I? That's not the answer I was hoping for, she said. I don't remember any mice, Jed said, or any traps, sorry. Megan wrote that down too. Then she stood in the steam and smell of stock a moment longer than she needed to. She had understood something and wanted to be sure of it. Jed was a chef from Yorkshire who'd been at Strings for over a decade. He would never be a chemical element. Whatever was wrong with Megan, the tiredness, the stress, the not remembering double maths, none of it could be wrong with Jed in the same way. So, If it wasn't the same problem in one would-be element and one chef, perhaps it was one problem in the building. They were in the same building. They had both lost the same day. The evidence said it wasn't her alone. Her relief lasted about a second, which was probably standard. If it wasn't her, if it wasn't one stressed girl forgetting a day, then the problem was Wednesday itself. Not her memory of it. Wednesday. And whatever could remove Wednesday from a kitchen log, a cook's memory, and a girl who recorded her own father falling asleep to the sound of similar and congruent triangles, was a great deal bigger than anything she'd been afraid of that morning. Thanks, Jed. She meant it more than she expected to, and felt, briefly and unscientifically, guilty. She had made a kind man notice the weird hole in his week. For data. And he'd been nice to her about the wet floor while she did it. Right you are. He was already reaching for the next thing to do with his hands, which she was beginning to understand was how Jed got through difficult afternoons. You eaten? He asked. There's soup. Staff rates. Actually, no. For you, no charge. You look like you're thinking too hard. Maybe later, Megan said, and went to find out who else had forgotten Wednesday. Chapter 9. An imperfect edit. Once the first result held, she tested it properly. Under the cover of the memory science project, which she now half believed in, since it was producing such clean data, she canvassed wider. Deborah, who dreaded the maths that hadn't happened. 2 boys from the cafeteria, a tutor she caught in the corridor who laughed and said the days all ran together at her age. It was either the truest or the most rehearsed thing anyone had said to her. Megan couldn't yet tell which, and noted that too. The pattern held. Everyone was certain Wednesday had happened. Nobody could say what had happened in it. The not finding it strange was the part that was starting to look less like an accident, and more like a feature. She took it to her room. She put the printed timetable on the desk, the official one, the laminated horror that Strings handed out at the start of term. Beside it she laid her transcription of the delivery log, butcher and fishmonger, forgotten Swedes, events gathered from other people's memories, and the neat consecutive days. Then she made the 2 of them agree, line by line, as if she was checking a sum by doing it backwards. They didn't agree. The timetable said Wednesday should have contained double maths. The delivery log moved directly from Tuesday to Thursday. Everyone she had questioned had joined one remembered event to the next, as though nothing lay between them. Wednesday had happened, but someone had removed it from the record and from everyone's memory, then left them to accept Tuesday and Thursday as consecutive days. Megan looked at the papers for a long time. A record could be wrong. Records were wrong all the time. That was why she kept her own. But ordinary mistakes were local and untidy. A wrong date here, a forgotten entry there. This was the same omission everywhere she looked. Wednesday was missing, and nobody but Megan found the gap strange. It was careful work. Annoyingly careful, especially when it was being done against her. It was Mr. Abernathy on a larger scale. Abernathy had ticked around a note he hadn't read. Somebody had edited the week, then marked it correct. She crossed out the hypothesis she had written earlier, the one that said tired or stressed or confirmation anxiety. She didn't enjoy crossing it out as much as she had expected to. Crossing it out meant the new one was true. She wrote, "The record has been edited, the edit is imperfect." Then she added underneath in smaller letters, because she didn't lie in her notebook. Imperfect equals mistake equals something they missed. She would find what they had missed. She was copying the timetable out cleanly when she noticed the mouse. It was on the wooden rail beneath her cork notice board, sitting motionless. It wasn't frozen. It was watching her hand move across the page. Megan didn't scream. She had established in the library that she wasn't the type, but she didn't shoo it either. That would remove the thing she wanted to observe, and the experiment was already running whether she'd set it up or not. She shifted in her chair, deliberately to the left. The mouse moved left along the rail. She shifted right, the mouse moved right. She held still, and so did the mouse, and the 2 of them sat there in the lamplight conducting the smallest, strangest staring competition in the history of Cornwall, until Megan made herself write down only what she had observed and nothing more. "The mice are following me," she wrote. "Note, following, not fleeing. See library, first sighting. They ran then, they do not run now." A mouse that moved when she moved, stopped when she stopped, and watched her pen, wasn't behaving like a mouse. The behaviour was evidence. Its meaning wasn't. She drew a line beneath the entry and left it empty, like a blank in a proof you haven't earned yet. Before she closed the notebook, she turned to the back, for no reason she could have defended, to the grey sliver of cardboard still tucked between the pages. On the same back page was a single date, underlined once. The day she would be counted. The day a machine she hadn't yet seen would tell her what she was. It was a little over a week away. She had assumed it was the most important date of her life. Now she was less sure. Chapter 10. What survived the cover-up? Megan went back to Mr. Hong's office the next day, Friday, which was, she thought, exactly what he expected her to do. The mice, she said before she had fully sat down. Still the mice, Mr. Hong said, as if the mice were a recurring timetable issue. I asked Jed. He doesn't remember setting any traps. He doesn't remember the mice at all. He doesn't remember Wednesday. Jed is a wonderful cook and a poor diarist, Mr. Hong said. Neither do I, Megan said. Mr. Hong looked at her. Remember Wednesday, she added. Mr. Hong's silences weren't like other people's. They made you want to keep talking. Megan had learned that the worst thing she could do was fill them. So she didn't. She made herself wait, as she'd waited with Philip. It was the same tactic against a much harder target. You've a lot on your mind, he said at last. Confirmation is a difficult time. That's what you'd say if you wanted me to stop asking, Megan said. It's a very kind way of saying don't worry about it. You said something very like it about the mice. People only tell me not to worry, about worrying things. The corner of Mr. Hong's mouth moved, not quite a smile, more the expression of a man who had expected a question and received an audit. She was on to something. What do you think happened? He asked. I think a day is missing. I think Wednesday happened, but nobody recorded it properly, like an experiment with no results written down. She paused. It sounded mad. It also sounded accurate, which was worse. And I think you know it happened, because you're not surprised, and you should be. If I came to you and said I'd lost a day, the first thing you would do is worry I was ill. She watched him carefully. You haven't asked me a single question about how I feel, or even what I'm talking about. You've only asked what I think happened. Those are very different questions. Mr. Hong said nothing for a long time, then looked suddenly careful, the way people were careful with chemicals that might react badly. You're going to be a remarkable element, he said, when you're counted. You're doing it again? I am, he agreed. He didn't sound sorry. And he didn't pretend to be. I am telling you not to worry, he said, and I mean it. You're also right that it is not an answer. Both things are true. I am very old, Megan. I have become quite good at saying true things that are not answers. He folded his hands. Ask a better question, and I may answer more of it, but not yet. You haven't got enough evidence. That is not an insult. You'll get it. You're the sort who does. It wasn't exactly a lie. That made it more annoying. He hadn't denied anything. He had simply declined to answer, and he had done it without once unfolding his hands. There had been one moment, though, that didn't fit the rest. When she had pushed hardest, his eyes had gone very briefly to the door, not because someone might come in, but to check it was shut, as if even Mr. Hong, in his own office, wasn't quite the top of the building. She noted it without yet knowing where it belonged. It wasn't evidence, just the first time she had wondered who Mr. Hong answered to. She walked back along the bright corridor knowing more than she had an hour ago. Without once saying so, Mr. Hong had confirmed the important parts. Wednesday was missing, it was worth concealing, and the tutor she trusted most had decided she wasn't ready to know why. She wanted very badly to be ready. By Friday afternoon, Megan had stopped counting down the days to her proton count out loud. The investigation mattered more than the count. She had a new method, and it was better than canvassing. Canvassing had a flaw she was frustrated not to have spotted sooner. When you asked people whether they remembered Wednesday, you got the same blank look. Real and useful, but the same thing every time. 40 blanks didn't teach you 40 times as much. They taught you exactly the same thing, more loudly. So she stopped collecting blanks and started collecting what had survived. That was harder, but also better. A missing day was too big to grip. A surviving fact she could examine. She still noticed the words people used. The man at the academic office said, "Don't you worry about that, love. A tutor by the lab said, "I shouldn't worry about it." Deborah Castle said, "Don't worry, I can never remember what day it is either." Megan nearly missed it. Then she heard it. "Don't worry." There was something disturbing about being reassured by 40 people with the same 2 words. Real reassurance was meant to be a homemade thing, assembled badly by someone who likes you. This had the same pattern every time. Real forgetting was messy. People forgot in their own particular ways. They came back with guesses, excuses, apologies, or irrelevant facts. No 2 people forgot a thing exactly the same way. This was different. This wasn't, "I forget," but always some version of "don't worry." It was as though people had been handed a line and told to use it, as if the forgetting had been done to them, not by them. That was the truly frightening thing. Whoever could remove a day from 40 heads could remove another. She wrote it down, including the fear, and kept going. She wrote a new question, not, "Who forgot Wednesday?" Everyone she'd spoken to had forgotten Wednesday. Everyone wasn't a clue. Everyone was just the size of the problem. She wrote instead, "What survived the cover-up?" The question arrived almost as a relief. An edit done this well wouldn't leave its evidence in what people had lost. The evidence would be in whatever it couldn't change. The kitchen log had proved that already. It hadn't mislabeled Wednesday. It had skipped it. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, written as though the middle of the week had always worked that way. Nearly perfect was useful. A perfectly removed day would have left her nothing. But whoever did this had left a join. She just had to find it.
Please subscribe. It tells YouTube that impossible murders and questionable science are worth encouraging. Continue straight to the next episode using the link on screen or in the description below. Want even more? The next book in the Noah Vale mysteries is Quantum Pizza. 16-year-old Noah Vale investigates a chef killed by lightning under a clear sky and discovers that Earth has been in witness protection for the past billion years. You'll find the book and more about the series at pglark.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.